Hi guys, today we are going to be learning how to make an in-ground worm composting bin using an about 5-gallon bucket with a lid. I'm Brittany from By Brittany Goldwyn. I post videos about plants and projects, and I'm super excited to be making this in-ground worm composting bin for one of my new raised beds. Now I got this bucket for free from a local restaurant. It had pickles in it and it still smells like pickles, so hopefully the worms like that. And free projects are my favorite projects. So we're gonna walk through how to make this using this free bucket from start to finish. Now, a 5-gallon bucket is the perfect size for an in-ground worm composting bin. And I keep saying in-ground, but I really mean in garden bed worm composting bin. You could do this in-ground, but our soil is awful and super dense here, so it would be a huge pain digging a hole this big, though you are certainly welcome to if that's the approach you want to take. I'm going to put this in the middle of a very long raised garden bed, and you don't want it to be completely buried when you put it in your garden bed. So I know that my bed is 11 inches deep. I'm going to measure this bucket. Now from the bottom to the top of the lid is 15 inches. That's perfect because 11 inches hits right around this lip on the bucket, which is pretty much exactly what we want. Now the first thing I'm going to do is take off this lid and set it aside. We do not want to be putting any holes for air circulation in this lid because we wanted to keep the majority of the rain out of this bucket. The moisture that needs to be in the bucket will get in the bucket when it rains and fills the bed with water and moistens the soil. So I'm also going to leave the handle on because I like the idea of being able to pick this up out of the soil without having to find grips on the sides if they end up being buried in soil. So the first thing we are going to do with our holes is take a drill, and I just chose the largest drill bit we have, which is a 1/2-inch drill bit, and I am going to begin drilling air circulation holes all around this area that will be above the soil line. So it would probably be responsible for me to mark where I'm drilling these holes. I'm not going to do that because I'm kind of lazy. Now you can drill through plastic buckets. It does take a bit of force and maybe revising your drill settings, but it just takes a bit of time and force. This is the 1/2-inch hole that we have at the top. So now I'm just going to repeat this process going all around the top of the bucket. I'm going to do probably half the bucket, and then I'm gonna take a break because, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I had carpal tunnel surgery on this wrist. I probably need it on this wrist, and this job is not really great for someone who has carpal tunnel issues. So I'm going to do this in a couple different pieces. Don't feel bad if you need to do the same. Now that I have my 1/2-inch holes drilled all the way around this area, I'm going in with a smaller drill bit and drilling holes between each of the big holes and then a line of them up along this lip. And the only reason why I decided to switch to a smaller drill bit is just because it goes through a lot easier. So once I have all of the larger holes, I'm fine with having just some smaller holes all the way around. All right, now we've got all of our air holes drilled all along the top. And as a reminder, from here up is going to be above ground and there's going to be a lid on it. So don't worry about all the little spirals now. We're gonna clean those up after we finish drilling all the holes, because now it's time to work on drilling holes through the body of the bin. Now I'm going to use a bigger drill bit for this as well because we want worms to be able to go in and out. And I know some worms are really small, but I want to make it easier for them. So I'm going to be using a bigger drill bit, which means this is going to take a little bit more time. Okay, so we have holes all around the bucket. My slightly smaller drill bit was a little bit sharper, and I think this part is maybe a little bit thinner because this went pretty fast. All of these holes drilled. So now the last step is to flip the bucket over and drill a bunch of holes in the bottom. And after you finish doing all of your holes all around the bucket and on the bottom, it's time to go in and clean up all of these little spiral thingies. I don't want these coming off in my soil. So I am going to use a little pair of these snipper thingies. I always forget what type of tool this is called. I will use this to go around all of the holes and clip off all of the little plastic spirals. And then after you're done cleaning up your bin, snipping off all the little pieces of plastic, it's time to head outside to bury this. So this is a look at the bed that we are going to be putting the bucket into. It is a very long bed that I put in a couple weeks ago. I'm gonna put it right in the middle of the bed, and I chose this bed for the reason that it's the only bed that I don't have anything planted in. So I can easily just dig out the dirt, put the bucket in, and fill it around it. Now I did just put this bed in and fill it up a couple weeks ago, so it would have been smart to do it then, but I am not a smart woman. So now I'm going to backtrack all of my work, dig it out, and bury it. And now that I've got the bucket roughly in place here, I'm just going to fill in around it and kind of even out and clean up the soil. And you can see I did dump a little bit of the compost I had in here and some of the leaves into the bottom of the bucket for the base layer. Once you have your bucket in place in your bed or in the ground, wherever you're putting it, it's time to add some waste. So the first thing that I did was add a very shallow layer of about an inch or two of shredded leaves and compost from the area I dug out around the raised bed. I also just shredded up a bunch of pieces of newspaper to add those in here. And that's just to help with the balance of all of the wet ingredients I'm about to dump in, and to add some of these what are called brown or dry ingredients. Now the next thing I'm going to add in is a bowl full of a bunch of kitchen scraps. This is mostly fruits and vegetables, apples, lettuce, you know, all sorts of kitchen scraps. I do not add in any meat or dairy into any of my compost, and I try to go very, very light on anything with oils. Now, if it was something that just had a little bit of oil on it because it was cooked in it, that's usually going to be fine, but I don't put anything that's got a lot of oils or dairy on it or in it. We also use an electric kitchen top composter that I only really like to use throughout the winter when most of my compost out here is completely frozen over. And that just helps us shrink down a lot of our kitchen waste to something that we can then either dump into our yard waste bins or dump into our compost tumblers. Now, what that waste ends up looking like is this. It is a very fine, what this company that I got this composter from, they did send it to me for free to review, so disclosure there. This is what is called a Vago meal, which looks a lot like a compost or a dirt, but it is technically a pre-compost meal. So what I'm going to be doing is adding that in here to let the worms finish the job along with the kitchen scraps. And we have a rare Blanche visit here out in the garden. This is little tubby bunny Blanche. Usually Henry comes onto my videos because he's the one that likes to come outside more, but I guess she couldn't resist this super sunny day. Hi, baby. Hi, Henry. After I added everything, I topped it off with a little bit more shredded newspaper. Now you can get worms to add to your bin. You can order red wriggler worms online, but what I'm going to do is try to just let the worms find this bin on their own since it is buried in a bed. If I happen to see any while I'm planting or working in the yard, I will just carry them over and plop them down into this little bin and pop the lid back on. I may also ask around to see if I have any vermicomposting friends who can lend me or give me a few worms to add to my new in-ground worm composting bin. So if you'd like to make your own cheap in-ground or in raised bed worm composting bin, I hope you found this video helpful. I'm really hoping that this project helps to add yet another composting option to our already diverse composting lineup. Until next time, happy planting!